The world came back in fragments. Hospital's ceiling tiles. The steady beep of monitors. A dull pain humming through my side. I blinked, trying to remember where I was. Why my throat was dry. And then it hit me.
Surgery.
I'd made it through. I was alone in the room. The nurse said my parents had been by earlier. That they took care of everything. At first, I felt a strange sense of peace. Then I reached for my phone. And peace evaporated. 12 missed alerts. Bank notifications. 3 charges from a luxury hotel. A catering company. A floral designer. $9,432.55 in total. My breath caught in my chest. I tried to sit up, but the pain made me freeze. I scrolled further. Photos. My sister, Lila, in a white designer gown. My parents smiling like they'd just won the lottery. The caption. Couldn't have done it without family. 2 hearts # best day ever. Best day ever. They used my credit card. While I was under anesthesia, the nurse returned. Need anything? I shook my head slowly.
No.
I think I've already paid for everything. 3 days later, I was home. Bruised, slow, still healing. That's when they came over, my parents. Smiling like they were checking in on a patient. Mom brought soup. Dad made a comment about how stress isn't good for healing. Then Mom said it. We were wondering if you could help us with a few more bills. Lila's honeymoon got delayed. There's still some balances. No apology. No mention of what they did. Just another ask. Like I was an ATM with a pulse. I didn't say a word. I just glanced toward the hallway. That's when Ava stepped out. My 8-year-old daughter. In pink socks and a sparkly shirt that said, "Too kind, not blind." She smiled politely, walked up to my mother, and handed her a small silver box tied with a red ribbon. "You left this behind," she said softly. My mother blinked. My father frowned. They opened the box. Inside, a folded copy of my credit card statement, a printout of Lila's wedding expenses, and a handwritten note from Ava in her uneven block letters. My mom needed help. You gave her debt. My parents froze, hands trembling, mouths open, and I smiled, not because it felt good, but because it felt done. My name is Camille Harris, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because when I was too weak to speak, my daughter spoke for me, and what she gave them back shook everything they thought they could steal. I wasn't born with money. I built it. While my sister Lila posed for social media selfies and spent summers finding herself, I was working double shifts at the hospital, stocking vending machines with one hand and finishing nursing school coursework with the other. No one gave me anything, but somehow, everyone felt entitled to what I earned. It started small. A temporary loan to help Dad with his truck repairs. A quick favor when Mom's credit card bounced. Lila needed just a few hundred for her pop-up shop that never popped up. Every time I said yes, it was with the hope that maybe, they'd finally see me as more than just the backup plan. But they never did. They saw me as reliable. And they confused reliability with disposability. I became the family's emergency fund. Without the title. Without the thanks. I paid for birthday cakes I wasn't invited to. Sent Christmas money I never saw returned. Covered rent once when Lila's boyfriend ghosted her. And every single time they made it sound noble. You're doing better than the rest of us. You're strong, Camille. Lila's more delicate. Family helps family. But help became expectation. And expectation turned into entitlement. I never got flowers when Ava was born. No one threw me a baby shower. My mom even said, "You should have waited. Kids are expensive." But when Lila announced her engagement to a guy she'd known for 6 months, Mom hosted a full brunch. My dad offered to cover her venue deposit. And somehow, when they ran out of money, they reached into my wallet while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. That's when it hit me. They didn't see me as their daughter. They saw me as the family fund. I gave because I didn't want Ava to grow up feeling the same kind of rejection I did. Because part of me thought that if I was generous enough, forgiving enough, useful enough, they'd love me the way they loved Lila. but they didn't. And when I finally needed someone, just someone to show up for me, they showed up for her instead. Using my name, my money, my sacrifice. They didn't just take money. They took time, security,
Peace.
the quiet grace of healing after major surgery, gone. So yes, I was furious. But more than that, I was done. They used me like a credit line. And when the balance came due, they had no idea what I'd saved. Not cash. Receipts. Evidence. Boundaries. The kind that don't bounce. 3 days after I was discharged, I sat on the couch with a heating pad pressed against my abdomen and a laptop balanced on my knees. I went through every transaction like a forensic accountant. Each one hit like a slap. $2,300 venue deposit. $1,800 catering. $650 hair and makeup team. $3,400 dress boutique. All charged to me. All approved by someone who wasn't me. All dated between the hours I was under anesthesia and my first post-op recovery day. I didn't cry. Not even when I saw the limo rental charge. They rented a stretch SUV for a day. I couldn't walk to the bathroom without help. I called the credit card company. Fraud claim?
Denied.
The charges were made with my physical card. Apparently, my mom had told the nurse she needed to hold my things while I was being wheeled into the OR. I felt sick. Not just from the healing incision across my stomach, but from the realization that I had trusted people who used my vulnerability like a shopping spree. The final insult? Lila's Instagram post. A photo of her tossing her bouquet in slow motion. Captioned, "Couldn't have done it without my amazing family. Thank you for making my dream day come true. Two heart sparkles. #LuxWedding. #blessed. #bright energy."
Blessed.
On my dime. Later that night, my mom texted, "Just checking in. Hope you're feeling stronger. We may need a little more help covering the honeymoon. Flights went up." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another ask. And here's the part that still haunts me. They truly thought I would say yes. Because that's what family does. Because you weren't using the money anyway. Because you're the one with the good job. They dressed theft in the language of tradition. Packaged financial betrayal as sacrifice. Labeled my silence as permission. But the truth was louder now. They used my body shut down as a financial opportunity. And they never thought I'd push back, because I never had before. Until now. I closed the laptop. Called my lawyer friend, Kendra. And said 7 words I never imagined saying to her. I want to file a report. Family or not.
Kendra didn't ask why.
She just said,
"Good.
Let's begin." By week 2 of recovery, I couldn't lift more than 10 pounds. But I could lift something heavier. The truth. While my body healed, I turned my attention to the part of me that had stayed wounded far too long. My boundaries. Kendra helped me put together a case file. Screenshots. Receipts. Bank statements. Text logs. The timeline was clear. While I was unconscious in surgery, my mother used my card. The money flowed from my recovery room straight into Lila's wedding fantasy. We froze the card, initiated an investigation, and filed a formal report with the police. Because no matter what they said, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was unauthorized access and financial fraud. I also filed a civil order removing both of my parents as emergency contacts. I changed every password, closed every shared account, blocked every auto payment tied to their names. By the end of the week, my phone no longer buzzed with fake apologies. Just silence.
And peace.
Except for one voice. Ava's. One night, she came into my room and sat beside me, holding a coloring book. She didn't say much, just quietly colored for a while. Then she looked up and asked, "Mommy, are Grandma and Grandpa in trouble?" I swallowed hard. "What makes you say that?" She held up my phone. She'd seen the notification about the fraud report. Smart. Observant. Just like me at that age. Except I never had anyone to explain the world kindly. I took a breath and said, "Sometimes people do the wrong thing, and they have to face the truth. Even if they're family." She nodded slowly. Like when someone steals? Exactly. She paused, then quietly said, I don't want them to take from you again. That night, as she slept curled up next to me, I wrote a short note on thick ivory paper, folded it, slipped it into a small silver box along with printed evidence and a photo of the three of us, me, my mom, and Lila, at a family picnic from 5 years ago. Back when I still thought they saw me. Back when I still hoped being useful meant being loved. Then I tied the box with a red ribbon and tucked it into my nightstand drawer. Because they would come back. I knew it. They'd come asking for more, pretending nothing happened. And when they did, I would let Ava give them what they left behind. They came back acting like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't robbed me blind while I was unconscious. My mom brought soup. Again. My dad stood behind her, holding a folded sheet of paper like it was a peace treaty. They sat on my couch like it was their home. Smiled at Ava like she hadn't watched them gut her mother's dignity. Then Mom spoke. Camille, we know there were misunderstandings. But we're family. And family helps each other, right?
Dad added.
Lila's honeymoon didn't go as planned. A few things didn't get paid. We were hoping you could help finish it out. My chest tightened. Not from anger. From the sheer boldness. They didn't even flinch. They weren't sorry. They just thought I would fold. Again. But this time, I didn't need to speak. I looked toward the hallway. Ava. I called gently. She walked in, clutching the small silver box we had prepared together 2 nights ago. She held it carefully, like it was made of something sacred. Walked up to my mother. You left this behind, she said, smiling politely. My mom froze. Dad looked at her, confused. They opened it together.
Inside.
A full printed bank statement highlighting every charge made during my surgery. A notarized copy of the fraud report. A formal letter drafted by my attorney. A childhood photo of me, age 11, holding a plain homemade birthday cake, while Lila stood beside me with a professionally made unicorn cake and a tiara. Taped to the back of that photo was a note, in Ava's uneven handwriting. You forgot my mommy when she needed help. So, we remembered what you did. My father's hands trembled. My mom tried to speak, but no sound came out. I sat perfectly still. Every part of me calm, clear, complete. Then I said, the courts have everything they need. I gave you the chance to fix this privately. You chose denial. They started stammering. It wasn't like that, Camille. We thought you'd be okay with it. It was for your sister, I raised a hand. Don't rewrite it. You took from a woman who couldn't speak. So I let my daughter answer for me. My mom's eyes welled up, but I didn't feel pity. Just distance. A cold, earned distance. Ava stood beside me now. Still quiet. Still watching. And then softly she added, you don't have to come back again. That silence that followed? It wasn't uncomfortable. It was freedom. My parents stood slowly. My dad muttered something about getting a lawyer. I nodded once. Good. Mine's already waiting. They walked out. And as the door clicked shut behind them, Ava slipped her hand into mine. No fear. No confusion. Just the certainty of a child who watched her mother choose strength over submission. You'd think they'd lie low after that. After being handed a box filled with evidence, a lawyer's letter, and their own reflection. But narcissists don't disappear. They recalculate. 2 days after they left, Lila posted a new photo. A close-up of her hand on her new husband's chest. Captioned, when people try to ruin your glow, but God said shine, anyway sparkles ring #grateful #family first. The irony didn't even sting. It was expected. What they hadn't expected was the chain reaction. My lawyer filed the report formally with the police. No arrest, just a civil case. Enough to freeze further access to my accounts. Enough to let every vendor Lila owed know what really happened. Within a week, I received 4 calls. The venue, the florist, the makeup team, and a photographer. Each one asked the same thing. Can you confirm you were not the one who signed off on these charges? I answered calmly.
No.
And I have the hospital records to prove I wasn't conscious. By day 10, The story slipped into the cracks of the community. Not viral, but loud enough. At the church, whispers started. Did you hear what they did while Camille was in the hospital? She was recovering and they drained her account? Ava's only 8 and had more dignity than any of them. Even family members who once stayed silent began texting. If I'd known, I would have said something. They always took advantage of you. I'm proud of what you did. I didn't respond to most of them. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need applause. I just needed space. One day, I received a voicemail from my cousin Elena. She'd been at the wedding. In her message, her voice cracked. Camille, I knew something felt off. The energy was weird. No one mentioned you. I thought maybe you didn't want to come. I didn't realize they were using your money to fund it.
She paused,
Then added, You didn't deserve that. Ava didn't deserve that. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to believe before. I wasn't alone. The shame I carried wasn't mine. It was theirs. And now, everyone could see it. Not because I screamed, not because I made a scene, but because I let the truth speak. With documents, with silence, with one perfectly timed gift box delivered by a child who knew exactly what dignity looked like. It took me years to understand what healing really looked like. It didn't come with apologies. It didn't come with repayment. It came quietly, in the form of peace. I stopped checking their socials. I stopped responding to cousins who wanted the tea. And most of all, I stopped waiting for them to be who I needed. Instead, I turned towards something real.
Ava.
One Saturday morning, I found her in the living room with scissors, glitter, and old greeting cards spread out on the floor. Whatcha working on?
I asked.
She looked up, smiling. I'm making cards for people who don't have moms like you. I blinked. Like me? She nodded. Who protect. Who give good hugs. Who don't forget. That was the first time I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I had finally broken the cycle. Ava didn't grow up wondering if love was conditional. She didn't wait for a gift that wouldn't come. She wasn't invisible in the family photo.
She was seen.
That same month, I started a small blog, Silent Receipts. A space where women could anonymously share stories of financial betrayal by family. I didn't name names, didn't retell my story in full, but I wrote posts like, just because they raised you doesn't mean they're allowed to rob you. Being the strong one doesn't mean being the bank. You're allowed to close the door, even on blood. It grew faster than I expected. Emails poured in. Women from everywhere. Nurses, teachers, single moms, daughters of pastors, and businessmen. Each one saying the same thing. This happened to me too.
I didn't know how to say it.
I replied to as many as I could, because I remembered what it felt like to suffer alone. To smile in the hospital while wondering if anyone would protect you the way you protect them. Ava watched me build that space. Watched me grow it into workshops, support calls, even a free budgeting course for women leaving toxic family structures. One day, her school hosted a family superheroes event. Each child had to draw their hero. Ava stood proudly beside her crayon poster. On it, a woman in scrubs with a stethoscope in one hand and a sword made of paperwork in the other. The caption read, "My mom protects people with truth." I didn't need to win a case. Didn't need them to say sorry. Because the real reward was standing right there, wearing sparkly shoes, handing out glitter cards to strangers, and smiling without fear. The letter came in a plain envelope. No return address, just my name in slanted handwriting. I knew before opening it. It was from them. My parents. Inside were 3 pages. The first was from my mother. We didn't realize how far things had gone. We were under pressure. We made mistakes. Lila is gone now. Left the country. We haven't heard from her in weeks. We're sorry. We need help. Please. The second page was from my father. Colder. Formal. This family is broken.
But it doesn't have to stay that way.
If you want to talk, you know where to find us. And the third page? A handwritten list of debts. Numbers scribbled in pen. Amounts they now owed. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I was tempted to forgive, but because I felt nothing. That's what closure really is. Not a big confrontation. Not screaming. Not slamming doors. It's indifference. It's silence. It's freedom. I didn't reply. Not directly. Instead, I wrote one line. Typed, signed, and mailed back in an envelope of my own. I gave you everything once. Now, I give you space. I closed every account tied to them. Digitally. Financially. Emotionally. But I opened new ones. Ava, and I moved to a better neighborhood. I set up a trust in her name. And I booked us 2 flights for the first real vacation we'd ever had, just us. We went to the coast. A tiny cottage by the sea. No phones. No bills. Just long walks, sand in our shoes, and the sound of waves drowning out everything old. One night, Ava asked, "Mommy, do you miss them?" I paused. Then said, "I miss the people I wish they were. But no, I don't miss who they really were." She nodded, thoughtful, then leaned on my arm and whispered, "I like who you are." That was the only truth I needed, because in the end, they thought I'd stay silent. They thought I'd recover and come running back. They thought I'd always be the daughter who gave more than she could afford. But I wasn't her anymore. I was the woman who knew her worth, the mother who raised a child to recognize manipulation before it could bloom. The survivor who turned betrayal into blueprint. They took money. They took peace. They tried to take the one thing they couldn't replace. My voice. And yet here I was. Louder than ever. Quieter than they could handle. Stronger than they imagined.